You know, it's a sad reminder that I unfortunately got this season. When you're truly grinding ranked, trying to get a big achievement, you know, trying to finish top 100 for a season of a card that you like, you really don't have that much time to be messing around with new decks. Hello folks, this is me checking in, letting you know that I am on day 3 and currently at top 50-ish or so. I think if I continue this and go like 3 legends a day, I should stay well within top 100. I think for Luke Year season, I expect top 100 to be like legend 40, so I think if I do like 3 legends a day going forward, I should be okay without also burning out of the game. But I need my girl real bad, and I will do everything, whatever it takes to get top 100, to get the nice little flex banner, because I'm sick of my Azel one that I got last year. So please give me the truth, give me what I desire, give me what I need. Anyway, let's take a look at some decks, some day 1 decks for this new set 16 for 0. So this is actually the second last limit break set before we get onto Legion, so there's quite a few things to take a look at. However, keep in mind that I've barely tested any of these because this entire time that I've been climbing, I have been climbing with none other than Chaos. So I think Chaos is really good, and it's very fun to play actually, and because of that I've just been climbing with it all the time, and it's been pretty successful. So I think once I'm like safely in, or once I like safely do my daily quotas going forward, then I'll start messing with the other decks, but for now it's been mostly Chaos. So these are like really first drafts, barely tested. The one that is more tested is Pale Moon, because that was provided by Matt, who's actually climbing with it and also aiming for top 100 this season, so that one will be a bit more fleshed out, whereas the other ones are still like very much testing phase. So the first one I'm going to show you is going to be, of course, Great Die Kaiser. So this is my first draft, and I really can't tell you how good it is. This is all based on theory and hasn't been playtested whatsoever. So, you know, some of the new cards we have, like the Kaiser Greater. So this is like if your Vanguard is Kaiser, you can put him into your soul to superior ride Die Kaiser. So lets you jump, but I feel like it's pretty much a dead card outside of turn 2, so I don't want to run too many of it. So it's like you draw it, cool, you get to jump, and if you have to be on Kaiser too, so it's really high rolly, but if you don't, it's okay. You're not losing out on that much. Like Die Brave is way more important to give you the extra draw, and Laurel has come back now at 3 copies because we can actually abuse him a little bit with the Great Die Kaiser buff, so that's also really important. So Kaiser, if you don't know, is when you ride over him, give 5k to the unit. It doesn't really like mesh with anything too well outside of like Diard, who gets 5k. Like when he's at 15k at the start of the battle, he gets +1 crit like Daisha does, so he's okay just there to basically like ride over into Die Kaiser. I'm still running some Mikas just for the draw. This might be possible to cut down for like 10k vanillas and stuff, purely because Die Brave is there, but you have to get Die Brave in there, which isn't always possible, so keep that in mind as well. And then at the other new grade 2 that we have is the Die Barret. Die Barret is actually one of my favorite cards from way back when. I really like this card, and they reworked his skill in an interesting way. So Regard Circle, you put him into the soul to give your Vanguard +4k. That's one skill, right? This used to be just one skill rather than 2. So the second part of his skill is, in the soul, if your Vanguard is Dimensional Robo, you can get almost 1 and put him into the drop zone to give your Vanguard the following ability: when this attack hits the opponent's Vanguard, you retire an opponent's Regard. So this is cool. It's basically, you know, Die Brave is draw, this is retire. So that's kind of what they're trying to do here, and I think it is pretty good. This kind of like pinpoint retire is nice for certain like matchups to like snipe annoying back row, like if they ever leave up a Zelma in Pale Moon, or like Dorant, or the Gold Paladin counterpart for Liberators, or Palladiums and Link Joker. There are some pesky cards that you want to like pop, so this card is actually quite good, and the extra 4k is free, so that's also pretty nice. Die Dragon still has like a 12k attacker I'm running as well. Die Kaiser, you guys already know, you know, the guard break. They did give him a buff. His skill is no longer once per turn, so basically the reason why we're playing more Laurel now is that when you drive check a grade 3, he gives the effect that when you're playing with Sentinel, they have to Sentinel with 2 cards. So with the change now, you can attack once, and let's say like it hits, right? So they wouldn't have Sentineled anyway, because it hits, it puts them to like, let's say 5. But before, if you check the grade 3 on that first battle, and let's say then restood with Laurel, you wouldn't have this skill active anymore. So now they changed it so that it only, like, it still activates only 1 time per battle. So it's not like you ask for 4 PGs if you check 2, it's still 2 the whole time. But now you can basically like hit, and then restand with Laurel, and then be able to attack again, and then ask for 2 PGs if you check a grade 3 on that drive check. So that's the important change to Die Kaiser. I think it is pretty important because it enables Laurel, because the reason why is because Great Die Kaiser got a buff himself. So when he attacks on break 4, count almost 2, draw 1, and he gets drive +1. So this is the first ever 3rd drive check in 0, and it was also the first ever one in the TCG as well. And then Vanguard Circle, when he attacks, if his power is 15k or higher before the attack step actually happened, then you countercharge 1. So this instantly refunds when the counterblast for his first skill. So optimally what you're doing is you break ride this over Daikaiser, you swing into them once, and you know, a swing that hits. So let's say they're on 3, you push them to 5, and then you counterboss 2, so you draw 1 and you drive an extra card, and then you countercharge 1 as well. Then you restand, you can attack again, countercharge first, and then counterboss 2 and draw again and get extra drive. So it's really like this, basically counterboss 2, draw 2, which we really like. And I think because of that, the Mika and stuff might like get cut later on, but it's a really nice buff actually. It helps with that quite a bit. I'm also running Shadow Kaiser because he basically, his Vanguard circles just gain 5k, but the Reguard circle effect is if your Vanguard is Daikaiser, you can put this into your soul, and then you search your deck for a great Daikaiser and superior ride it, and then choose a grade 3 from your drop zone and put it back to your deck. Now, the reason why this card, I think this build is actually pretty decent. I've run into it a few times on ladder actually while I've been ranking. I think this build is actually quite decent because a lot of decks these days like to rush you because they're afraid of your break ride skills. They just rush you and just go like, alright, at least I can slow it down or maybe kill them beforehand. So what you do is you still regularly ride Daikaiser if you didn't do it with Kaiser Greater, and then just use Shadow Kaiser to superior ride on that same turn. So you basically road and break road in the same turn, so it's pretty good. But yeah, this deck will probably get changed over time, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about it. I already have said too much, I think. Then Pale Moon, the biggest changes, the most important cards added here are Emil, which lets you look at top 5 to add grades 1 through 3 Silver Thorns into your soul and then recycle it by calling him back out. And then basically we're also, and Zelma, those are the 2 most important cards. Zelma is a Silver Thorn Purple Trapezist with 7k power, and therefore with Marichka you can like reset entire columns. It's really good. Venus Looking herself is alright. The counterboss 2 to fill up your board is good against certain matchups, but against a lot of others it's just not worth it. You want to spend your counterboss on Marichka to reset your columns all the time and do a bunch of multi-attacks, so you don't care so much about Venus's skill itself. You can play her at 3 and maybe put Lukier to 2, you know, but the crossride is really important for this deck too. And it's most important to have Silver Thorns because Zelma needs to put back Silver Thorns and call out Silver Thorns. So I'm trying to play, like, PGs are fine because you don't want to be calling them anyway, but like, you know, you don't want to be messing up your combos just because these are your only options, so you have to be a little bit careful with that. But Alice still gives a lot of nice extra power for this deck and like nice multi-attack ability. But now with Zelma, honestly, Marichka does it really well on her own, so also you have Anna to back her up if you ever need to. So this deck I'll feature more in focus in its own deck and fight, so I don't want to talk about it too much right here. Then for Melstrom, Melstrom got the reverse Melstrom and all the blue storm support, but we're only really playing reverse Melstrom here. So how has this deck changed? We got a new starter, which is actually really good. When the boosted attack hits a Vanguard, it's the 3rd battle of that turn or more. You check the top 5 cards of your deck and add a Maelstrom from among them to your hand, and then you create the same copy of the Maelstrom that you added and put it back to your deck. So if you had a Glory, you put a Glory back. If you added a Maelstrom, you put a Maelstrom back, etc. So let's say like you search out a Glory, which is your heal, it goes to your hand, and then you create another heal Glory Maelstrom and it goes back to your deck. So that way you don't lose out on the total triggers in your actual deck, which is really nice. Other than that, all these cards are like your typical Aqua Force deck, but just more self-damagers because you can self-damage into these limit breaks. So whether it's the original Maelstrom's limit break that you can still want to use, or just go into reverse Maelstrom, which basically now says once per turn lock a rear guard of your own and then gain the following ability. When it attacks, if it's the 4th or more battle of that turn, gain 5k in a crit. At the end of the battle, draw 1, retire 1. So it's like old Maelstrom but plus a crit. So that's literally what this card is. It's like you lock a rearguard of your own in exchange, but you don't really care too much because, you know, it's Maelstrom, it's using Basil, it's using Diamantes. You can even play less copies of some of these Maelstroms just because this starter searches them out for you. So, like, you want to see the reverse Maelstrom the most. That's why I think, like, the regular Maelstrom can be played as, like, a 3 of as well. This is also provided by Matt, by the way. But I think, like, this list is pretty decent. You don't play so much of the Blue Storm stuff because it's just, like, not that good. A lot of the cards are just really, especially not for Zero's rules, they're really not that good. So I think instead you're just playing, like, the tried and true good Aqua Force cards, like, you know, Tidal Assault, Wheel Assault, and stuff like that, and then just kind of have a field day with those. And then finally, we have duos, which I'm actually not too far from completion. So yes, don't forget these cards have 2 different arts. So for example, these PGs are 4 of the same card, but 2 different arts. And then, like, to explain it, basically, this deck draws a billion. It's pretty famous. Like, this archetype is famous in, especially in G, for drawing like a 15 card hand, 20 card hand. It's ridiculous. But with Zero's hand limit, you have to be a little bit careful. So Mir is the break ride that gives a skill that when your Vanguard attacks, count +1, bounce any number of your rear guards back to your hand, and then choose 2 cards from your hand and call them. So you basically get to refresh 1 column or refresh 2 attackers. It's pretty good because of that. Then of course Rate is your sort of finisher. When she attacks for that battle, gains a skill at the end of the battle, count +2, and discard 2 duos with the same name, stand this unit, draw 2, and gain 5k. And also when she attacks, you can soul blast 1 to bounce a duo rear guard back to your hand. So you're often just like copying cards because you have the Roan, for example, who says when her attack hits a Vanguard and rear guard circle, count +1, choose another of your dual rear guards and bounce back to your hand, and then search your deck for 1 card of the same name as that card and put it to your hand. So that way you can clone your cards and basically have extra copies to actually be able to do those combos. Then this card also kind of helps with the same thing. So this is the Iori, so Soul Blast 1, Persona Blast, and then bounce one of your dual rear guards and search your deck for 2 cards with the same name as that card. So you get the 3 instantly, which is also really nice. And when she attacks, you can discard 2 of the same name duo to gain 5k and a crit. So she's also pretty decent. You either like go for a restander or go for the extra crit, which I think is pretty cool. Then this deck has so many other tools. It has when bounce to hand, soul charge 1, counter charge 1 for resources, on play count +1, bounce another rear guard, and then also like 12k attackers. And then on top of that, of course, one of the best cards is the Piece, who says when bounce to hand, if your Vanguard is a duo, count +1, draw 1. If you have 3 or more pieces in your hand, counter charge 1. So she refunds it. So you can like call her, bounce her, draw, call her, bounce her, draw, call her, bounce her, draw, as long as you have 3 of them in hand. So what you want to do, for example, is like call her, bounce her with like a Roan or something, and then clone her to your hand. The next turn, do it again, like, you know, bounce her, search her for your deck, and then you have 3, you can start countercharging every turn. On top of that, you have like Soul Blast 2 to countercharge 2 for the earlier turns where you don't have the extra pieces. You also have this, which basically says like when your other rear guard is bounced to hand, gain 3k. So it's a 9k booster. I'm not sure if this card will stay, but this deck has like no other power gain, which is like the sad part, that this deck like pluses a billion, but it has like no power gain. It has a 12k attacker, it has this, and it has a grade 2 version of this too, and has another card which is like you have to run it as a 4 of, because it says like if you can reveal, I think if you have like 3 or more of her in your hand, like she gives herself extra power or some stuff like that. Like this deck is really lacking power gain, but everything else about it is really good, and I think you can easily play 9 crit because as you can see, you can search stuff so easily. Keep in mind, you can call a PG and bounce it with a Roan to search your deck for another PG, or bounce it with the Iori to search for 2 PGs. So it's because of that this deck is actually pretty nutty, and like you can search so much that it's already quite good. I think this list is definitely not final. It's worth testing out and just see how it works for you. Honestly, just see how it works for you, see what you want to change about it. There's so many different cards in this deck that you can really mess around with basically anything. So just give it a whirl and see how it goes, and I think you'll get a feel for yourself as well. But I'm no Bermuda master by any means. You know, I only recently started playing the client to begin with, so yeah, that's the thing. And yes, I use chrono sleeves because I'm different. I'm a terrible person, and that's just how it is. So yeah, those are the day 1 decks for set 16. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. But yeah, so like I'll probably start making content for this set's decks a bit later. I think I want to secure top 100 in this season first, and so I want to keep playing Chaos, and then once I'm kind of like in a comfortable spot of like Legend 40-ish, then I think I'll get on to like making more content for these decks and slowly building together stuff like the duos before we head into the last Link Joker set, which will be next month. So yeah, I don't know, I randomly just decided that Lukier will be my time to shine again ever since Azel last year. So yeah, hopefully guys, you can cheer on me to finish top 100 this season. I'll do my best and hopefully not get burnt out. That's the most important thing, is to play to enjoy and not to burn out. But anyway, that's gonna be it for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.